Kuzampo and welcome to Bhutan This Week. I'm Kizawangmo. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King was on a royal tour to southern districts. National Assembly decides not to delay implementation of Tourism Levy Bill. And farm shops across the country will be closed by end of this month. His Majesty the King visited sites affected by flooding in Phuentsholing recently. His Majesty the King was on a royal tour to southern Dzongkhag.
During the ongoing royal tour in the south, His Majesty the King granted land kidu to the people in Sirang and Serpang. This is part of a royal initiative to resolve people's land issues once and for all. Since the start of the exercise, land kidu was granted in 18 Dzongkhags before the pandemic. So far, His Majesty has granted a total of 150,000 acres of land as kidu to nearly 150,000 beneficiaries in all 205 geoks of 20 Dzongkhags. Over 56,000 beneficiaries received 74,000 acres of land in Sirang, and another 57,000 beneficiaries received almost 900 acres in Serpang Dzongkhag. As with all other Dzongkhags, His Majesty also refunded the cost of excess land and fines. These amounted to 140 million Newton in Sirang and Serpang Dzongkhags. On the royal tour, His Majesty also met with Desup's training in the ongoing 50th batch at Tenchuling in Wangdifoda and Jimiling and Pelrithang in Serpang. While in Wangdifoda, His Majesty visited the sturgeon fishery. It was initiated upon the royal command to explore the potential of sturgeon fish farming in Bhutan. His Majesty also met with Desups engaged with multiple Desung initiatives. In Punakha, His Majesty met with Desups in the specialized refresher course, the Desung for Gyalsung, which provides hands-on training in high-level infrastructure construction at Gyalsung academies. His Majesty also met with Desups of the Million Fruit Trees Plantation and the nationwide Accelerated Dog Population Management and participants of the Desung skilling programs. While in Gelifu, His Majesty granted an audience to the Desups working at the landmark water project for Gelifu Thomde. Sunampem for BBS News.
Druknyamrup Thokpa will not develop the Singjong App. The Labour Minister said this during the question and answer session in the National Assembly. The Minister reasoned that there are other developmental activities that the government needs to prioritize in the current plan. Singjong, a communication application, was one of the much-hyped pledges of the government during the parliamentary elections in 2018.
Chargiki mangel kotam biwikablu te datugi ne tantadi te khachuigi disuna te tandu yusuni tambasyo da biljurgi ne ta lejum zogobe tele GSP ki lamdisu te zogobe te chu tengobe te ngachiragi mitop te gongpel tangobe te sanamna te gongpel tangobe te wele tendi te chaji chunupigi te changil disu te ka dina gotam tandi yumidine yuble tendi te dato chaji chuni judubgi nalu te ngachiragi changil majani digi te Singjong App di te chaji chuni judub lu te ngachiragi 피미수베 세준이 베이나 다디 카치우이 데 차지 준이나 베마 소디베로 데 신 차지 주수비나 데 중가 온디베로 데 카치우이 블레텐디 데 두니기 데레와케도 세준이 베이나.
Discussions on the Tourism Levy Bill in the National Assembly on Thursday was focused on one main issue: should the bill be delayed by 6 months? The Tourism Levy Bill 2022, which was introduced as a money bill by the Finance Minister on Monday, proposes to raise the Sustainable Development Fee to $200 per person per day.
Opening the discussions, the chairperson of the Economic and Finance Committee, Kingapanjo, said the bill is by and large supported by the stakeholders. They support the purpose, which is to promote Bhutan as a destination for exclusive tourism and ensure that it benefits the Bhutanese public. They also support the STF of $200, but they want the revision to be postponed by 1 to 2 years so that they can prepare accordingly.
Dedu zani ki loni ni dere di migoya yubab mindu se lochi se roya thoe dedu zani se mi di rangi tab dedu ta chada chap ni chira ime ta ani ki di daudru ki nangkhina di ta tashel pa oni bewa chin te dusechi na me season chi na di te ta Himalaya ki khal zeja jab yero dina se chube te sap be chamgoro ya dinale be chube se ngachi yubab di dinalu rentok to ji du se te ngachi ki ma phabdi ki be te daudru lu ke sela
He said close to 30,000 tourists are due to arrive in the country by June next year. The tourism industry would lose the carefully cultivated goodwill if their scheduled visits are cancelled. He also said implementing the revision immediately would affect the tour guides and also the two airlines.
Tashilgi Godentami tour operators dula. Yachikatole Pshikale Nana Bagdi Kemi Airlines. Kadulgi Lalentami Nigi Buluime Dachishumi Chachap Garala. Anibe Beodalu Teda Chikatole Bagomina Kewachin Kadulgi Chonglam Disoya Gara Ma Bisobachin te lalu bile Kakable Kundil Nachiragi de Anizum Beodalu Ani Disoya the Kadulgi Chonglam Disoya Chachigu Ma Biasovachin Tele Digadibe Benna Sila.
The opposition leader also asked the House to consider delaying the revision so that people working in the industry could prepare for it.
Chikagi Tashel Patisulu, Devagadibi Tabina. They Konle Pale Tenkel, Dugi Hamna Onigidulu, Disugadim Goina. The Anisuga, Ratunti Chap the Bedalu, the Tashel Gidi, Deribe, Namahoni Membela, Anibedalu Kongi Dream Bera Go Mela.
In response, the Prime Minister clarified that the revision will not affect tourists who are scheduled to arrive in the country, those who have already made their bookings. He asked, would all the guides be fully employed if the revision is delayed by 6 months? Would the airlines get passengers?
Siju sab digibe dodul bemi gyakamna gömomi chanka dumta chi ma mijoga se tokpati saumela irura chiltang gelchi gi tashel da chanka ma nyutabe jojo benidigi kum gyu pobore totozume pobdra dyunu nelapaya ati pobdra dyon se nikton kechi sumgi inda tamale gömchi mebe onimese gi shipsel bebodin kati minula so ane bebeodalu diswe do tu papi chachabagi kongi kangi lyumidi semichu se nomela.
Making an impassioned plea to the House, he said, assuming that the bill is delayed by 6 months, the stakeholders would likely ask for further delay when it is once again discussed in the House.
Machi nikton kechigi chayik digi sentinami kablu da chirilyumbogi gorin tabdi sundil lokchi namda sakagi jinda disu thonle kachi sunai sawachin dollar nijangap chugi chidi mib zosubachin se sakha disuge gyem tekatu lenshobigi nawa nasubachin se anusu sunaila tare ka anusu yuise shunibi sakhagi jindagi sunamigi loju disu jachele jacha tare pyudalu tore khonlu matube thensobachin tare matumidigi do tugi jable matubera thyon se shunibi.
The Foreign Minister, who is also the chairperson of the Tourism Council, said the tourism industry has been severely affected by the pandemic. He said, globally, the industry would bounce back only by 2025, according to experts, and delaying the revision by 6 months or a year wouldn't make any difference.
Ngari katule beba chindi teru hemaka imbera tengache jungi katule ka tadi matutupe zosa ise shunibi tibele tendi pa phyugo tyendae minu se shunibi ti natini le niyam kobile tendi te nalapa pha do lochi de chidi te tashile myo seru kara kechosuge tebeshe bimbela.
The issue of whether the revision should be postponed was resolved by a show of hands. The majority decided that it is unnecessary to postpone it.
주수기 대 잡저로 비누스 신내비 대동아치 소주값로 동기 대십주시인가요? 단위빔라틴디기베 촉충이 비밀 리드브디고로 대다디 잡저로 메노스 신내비 대메블라틴디기베 대진디 대두바 중래비밀이 진디 두바 가타두베라 대자주두비 스신내비라.
Tourists currently pay $250 per person per day. Of that, $65 is deducted as STF. Once the bill comes into effect, they would have to pay $200 as STF apart from expenses for accommodation, transport, and other services. The STF of $65 was introduced in 1991. Since the bill was introduced as a money bill, it will come into effect on the day it was tabled for discussion, that is 28 June 2022. Pupkim PBS News.
The National Assembly deferred the implementation of the Goods and Services Tax Amendment Bill until the taxation system is ready. The Finance Minister earlier proposed to defer the implementation of the bill by 2 years.
Earlier this month, the Finance Minister, while proposing the deferment, said that it is because of the operational readiness of the Bhutan integrated taxation system. He said although the software is ready, it lacks tax compliance and tax evasion, making it difficult to identify these issues. The ministry therefore cancelled the contract with Thimphu Park and they are looking for new experts. The ministry also said the other reason is the current economic situation of the country.
janamgi gonsegi thedu namlo ni tong khechini da khechisumna du lekchu theung segi tenga chagi lotop ki subegi dubjichi ru gelchigi nale zamling yakhangi beruda IMF ki khatule beruda di dubjichi hinsan sabe matembe seshunela nyankha yobero tenung seshunebila ta anebe bebe odolu tatu na nga chigi pejugi netsidi tab madika kagi thedu hube yu.
The GST Bill was initially planned to implement in July last year. However, it was deferred to July this year as the Bhutan integrated taxation system was not ready then. GST is considered to be the main tool to address tax leakages. After much deliberation on the implementation date during the earlier session, the bill was forwarded to the Legislative Committee for review. The bill will be now forwarded to the National Council. Kilitim for BBS News.
The Royal Audit Authority forwarded a case regarding the alleged misappropriation of government funds by an accountant in Dagana to the Anti-Corruption Commission. The audit observed that the accountant of Dujigang, Tsangkha and Lajagyoks allegedly misused funds and paid access payments for works that were not or less executed. The accountant allegedly made payments without supporting documents. This occurred in the 2020-2021 financial year.
According to the Royal Audit Authority, the accountant allegedly misused more than 3 million yeltrum. He transferred the amount to his account without payment details and supporting documents. He also made access payments amounting to over 2 million yeltrum to contractors and suppliers. Moreover, as per the audit, the accountant made inadmissible payments amounting to more than 400,000 yeltrum to the civil servants in the district. That includes access payment of salary, house rent allowances, and difficulty area allowances. The Gyok administration of Dujega, Tsangkha, and Laja have made payments of close to 3 million yeltrum without supporting documents. The audit also observed lapses amounting to more than 4 million yeltrum to construct Pelri Gyampa in Dujegang Gyok. As per the audit, there were inconsistencies in bill payment for community contracts in these three gyoks. Moreover, the revenue amounting to more than 127,000 yeltrum collected by the district administration was not deposited in the bank. According to the authority, the accountant also made payments for an incomplete irrigation channel maintenance work in Laja Gyok. The audit observed the alleged misappropriation of the fund this year. Singjong, BBS News.
A woman is in custody for allegedly reporting false information to the Regional Referral Hospital in Mongar. The police in Mongar arrested the 45-year-old woman today. According to the police, the suspect had taken a newborn to the hospital, claiming that she found the baby abandoned at Jangshingpek, a few meters from the town.
Upon investigation, the police found that the suspect got the baby from her neighbor. Her 29-year-old neighbor reportedly gave her the baby after delivery on Sunday. It was believed to be a case of unwanted pregnancy. The baby is currently admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit in Mongar and is said to be on minimal respiratory support. According to the Penal Code, a person shall be guilty of the offense of reporting false information if he or she knowingly reports false information to a lawful authority with the intent to deceive that authority. If proven guilty, the person could be sentenced to a prison term of 1 month to a maximum of less than a year. For Sonamstring in Mongar, Samtandolkar, BBS News.
More than 100 farm shop sales executives across the country will lose their jobs by the end of this month. The Food Corporation of Bhutan, FCB, decided to close the farm shops established in rural communities after running into a loss.
The Food Corporation of Bhutan started farm shops in 2015. It was established in gyoks for easy access to essential items. It also provided guaranteed markets to farmers. While the shops benefited the farmers, the corporation incurred a loss of more than 134 million item in the last 6 years. The farm shops were not commercially viable. The corporation met with the sales executives of 6 districts in the central and southern regions in Gyeonggi recently to inform them about the decision. However, the laid-off sales executives will be entitled to benefits and a 2-month salary. But those interested can continue to operate the business on their own. The corporation is willing to supply essentials with credit facilities.
Is there any possibility of extending the repayment of the credit facility? We also would like to request to retain the existing farm shop equipment. We can't progress much without proper tools, and it is very difficult to sustain a new business without any facility.
However, the CEO of the corporation, Nathan Wonshu, said it will not be possible to extend the credit repayment period as it will affect the cash flow. But he said the sales executives can keep the office equipment at a subsidized rate. The closure of the farm shops will directly affect close to 120 people, but 35 sales executives decided to continue as shopkeepers. For Karmondi in Sarpong, Sam Tendolkar, BBS News.
Wild animals continue to raise maize fields in Shumargyok in Pemagatsal. This has left farmers helpless and discouraged. The farmers say that if nothing is done to control the menace, more people will choose to leave lands fallow and desert their villages.
Farmers in Shumar grow maize on a large scale, but every time wild boars, monkeys, deer and porcupines invade the fields and destroy the crop. 30-year-old Kezang from Pangtang village is collecting damaged maize plants. He will feed this to his cattle. Only a few maize plants are seen on his field.
It's been 4 years now. Monkeys have ravaged my field, leaving very little for me. There is a cliff below my field. The monkeys live there. The monkeys have damaged my crops during the night.
The villagers say guarding the crop does not help them anymore.
We have been facing the problem with monkeys and wild boars for quite some time now. When we try to chase them, they attack us.
Wild boars are causing more damage. We could at least guard during the day and chase the monkeys away. I have left some of the lands fallow. Even if we cultivate, animals destroy them. I don't think I'll be able to harvest this time as well.
I am worried now. I cannot afford to buy rice. I have been depending on flour and karang.
The farmers are placing their hope on wire mesh fences and other equipment that the government plans to provide on a cost-sharing basis. The Labour Minister, during a recent visit to Pemagatsal, informed the farmers of the government's plan.
They say there are sensors to trigger an alarm whenever animals come. That would help us more. We can come and chase them. We are hoping to get it soon.
The innovative ideas, creative disu, ten beda mi disu semshuk ten thap ki ten lula kachira begop ina disu ginalu chala zegop du singa chini lola digibe te shuma charji chusum kona bewa chenga chegi dinalu ya mangil disu porcheto to besha be pento chung no igirewa ke diraye sejunil.
And that would benefit more than 700 families in the Gyeok. For Tiledoji in Pemagatsal, Sam Tendolkar, BBS News.
After a hiatus of 2 years amid the pandemic, the eco-lodge business in Jemgang is gradually picking up. One of the busiest eco-lodge at Pantang in Pangkar Gyeok resumed recently and is now receiving guests. The lodge came to a standstill after the country suspended the entry of tourists and identified Pantang as a high-risk area.
This Pantang Eco Lodge is reopening its door to business and leisure travelers after remaining closed for almost 2 years. The thatched-style cottage with a modern touch-up is run by the community. The lodge before the COVID used to be packed with guests. It used to see on average 15 guests per day. While it is back to business now, it's not all as usual. They just have around 5 guests in a day. But the manager says the business is expected to accelerate gradually. A few local visitors said the lodge is not only affordable but also environment friendly.
Pantangi Sagodi sa ale SCG facilities to peacefully do so.
The Pantang Eco Lodge is one of the 5 eco lodges in Lower King initiated in 2010 by the Royal Manas National Park with financial assistance from the World Wildlife Fund. For Pemba Samrup in Shemgang, Singjong, BBS News.
A ropeway over the Mochu has become the lifeline for the residents of Bali village of Chubagyok in Punakha. Almost half of the households in the village use it every day to get on the other side of the river and to transport their farm produce.
It is one of those busy Thursday evenings at Bali village in Chubagyok. Farmers start shifting their vegetables on the banks of the Mochu. They normally take their produce to the nearest market to sell them the next day. There are about 30 households in Bali and almost everyone cultivates vegetables for commercial purposes. Once they have stacked up the vegetables, they start transporting them using the ropeway over Mochu. The farmers help each other reach their produce on the other side. Although they have an old route connected by a suspension bridge, the farmers of Bali prefer the ropeway even if it means risking their lives at times. They say the ropeway shortens the travel time by more than half an hour. A contractor installed it last year while constructing the farm route to Bali. However, their days of taking the risky ropeway will likely be over sooner. The construction of a 150 feet Bailey bridge is underway right below where they have the ropeway. As per the district administration, the bridge construction that began in December 2020 got delayed due to lockdowns. Unavailability of skilled laborers and increase in cost of materials amid the pandemic also impacted the work's progress. The completion of the bridge, which was planned for September last year, is now scheduled to be ready by the end of this month. According to the district administration, the contractor is currently in India negotiating the price of bridge parts. The materials are expected to reach the site by this week. The official said if everything goes as planned, it will only take about 10 days to launch the bridge. For Changadoji in Punakha, PubGame for BBS News.
Inclusion becomes meaningful when persons with disabilities are not just present but engaged proactively, and this is exactly what happened in the Bhutan Coronation Marathon held in Paro last weekend. For the first time, 15 students from the Wangsil Institute for the Deaf not just took part but completed the 21-kilometer race.
Amongst the crowd of people cheering and roaring was a group of students from the Wangsil Institute for the Deaf showing enthusiasm silently. Bringing inclusion into focus, the marathon saw participation from the students of the institute.
Dari ngaji Wangsil ki lok chulu dizum ki baju ki tendu nalu chama tobe namsami semgai ngaji lok chu gara temteni do namsami to yeble ngaji lu dizum ki kokap nambaji namsami kadin cheni me dile buff BAAF loya namsami kadiche.
The institute plans to increase the number of participants in the next marathon.
The Dojiki Teleb that in the Goto Tangba Bindigi, Nacha Satanji line, the Banju, Begin Namdinalu, Tangacha Aludi, Namju Magoni Bindigi, the Lamkale Pakangali Jumatin, the Lola Jani to Sidin, the Shimigi, the Kakela de Tole Machine Digi, the Satanji line, Inra, Macha Aludi, Dare, Leshumbera Chamatochi, Jisu Irai.
Today, more than 100 students are studying at the Wangsil Institute for the Deaf. For Namgyawachu in Paro, Bemasaldun Singh, PBS News.
And this is all we have for you this week. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.